New York's classic rock, Q1043.
Good morning, and we are saluting veterans this weekend, having just commemorated Veterans Day 2022. And I know you're familiar with the Tunnel to Towers Foundation because I have Frank Siller, one of my heroes, on often, and he is the chairman and CEO of the Stephen Siller Tunnel to Towers Foundation. When you think of Tunnel to Towers, you think of first responders. When you think of first responders, you don't necessarily think veterans, but the military is a first responding team. They are first responders. And Tunnel to Towers does amazing work on behalf of veterans. First of all, their latest, very lofty goal is to end homelessness among veterans. The percentage of homeless that's comprised of veterans is just astounding. But Tunnel to Towers is taking this on as their mission, and not just providing housing and not just providing jobs, providing counseling, providing a community so that they can truly heal and move on with their lives. But also, Tunnel to Towers has been building smart homes for catastrophically wounded veterans. And I want to introduce you along with Frank, to one of those veterans, Rick Yarosh. He joined the Army in 2004. He was on patrol in Iraq when his vehicle was hit by an IED, and the blast ruptured the fuel cell and caused the vehicle to burst into flames, and Rick suffered burns over more than half his body. He had his right leg amputated below the knee. He lost the use of his hands. He has since become an inspirational, motivational speaker, but his whole life changed when Tunnel to Towers provided him with a smart home. So first of all, Rick, it even sounds shallow for me to thank you for your service, but I thank you for all that you have done, all that you have been through. How did this change your life?
Well, thank you very much. And you were right in the beginning when you said Frank is a hero, because Frank is one of my heroes as well. And what Tunnel to Towers has done for me and really changed my life forever. I have a home now that I don't have to worry about, like things that I had to worry about everywhere else. Like getting into a bathroom, being able to turn around in a bathroom, being able to sit in a shower, being able to cook. I don't have to worry about those things anymore because I have a home that does that for me. And honestly, one of the biggest things about that home is the fact that it's mortgage free. Like I don't have to worry about the stress of dealing with a mortgage. I get to worry about the things that are important in my life, and that's my family and other veterans and people who are dealing with hopelessness.
What was your life like before that, before the smart home?
Well, I'll just tell you, the last house I had a 600-foot driveway that I had to plow with a mule, a Kawasaki mule, not one with four legs, with four wheels. And I would had to plow that. And I can remember one time plowing in a blizzard, and my Kawasaki mule ran out of fuel halfway up the driveway, and it was a day that I decided not to wear my prosthetic leg. And I was in the middle of a blizzard with one leg and yelling for my wife to, like, that's just stuff that I shouldn't be dealing with. But I had to in my last home. So that's just one of the very simple things. Like I didn't need a 600-foot driveway that I had to take care of with my own vehicle. I don't have that anymore.
Frank, how many of these homes have been built by Tunnel to Towers?
Well, we've delivered over 100 smart homes, all mortgage-free smart homes all over the country for great heroes like Rick and other great patriots that gave their bodies for our country. But I have another 100 on a list right now that we have to build. And that's, I think it was 103 that we have right now that we're either just bought land, you're in the design stage, or they're just coming on. We're doing the background and trying to find land for them. So there's a lot of work to be done. So you would think all these years after the war that, all these great heroes would have be in a home, and many of them are in a home. like you said, you heard Rick say that he had his own home coming before we met him, but they're not designed for his injuries, and they have a mortgage. So, either we pay off the mortgages and redo their homes inside to give them all the smart home technology, or we, in like Rick's case, we built him a new home that made sense for him and his injuries, to give him back his freedoms and that he had beforehand. These guys are the most independent people in the world. They don't want to ask people for help. So these homes give them back some of their independence. So it's such an honor to do it. Rick says thank you, and he earned it. Look what he gave, for it. So there's not, people, we ask everyone, donate $11 a month. We just had Veterans Day, and that was, we always ask everybody, donate $11 a month, because you could change somebody great hero's life. And just Rick is a testament to that. And that's how we get it done.
$11 a month, you're not going to feel that. I mean, that's 2 cups of coffee, the specialty coffees at Starbucks during the holiday season, right? $11 a month.
Oh.
You go to T2t.org and get in the program. It's like, why would you not do this? That, thanking veterans for their service is one thing. Do something to really thank veterans for their service. T2t.org. So, Frank, in a perfect world, because I have no idea the number of catastrophically wounded veterans we have, how many homes would we need? Do you have any idea?
Well, there's hundreds more, if not 1,000. And, a lot of them are paralyzed, paraplegics, quadriplegics, traumatic brain injury. Some of them are feeling the effects today that they didn't even feel the effects when they first came back from Iraq and Afghanistan. But listen, there's also Gold Star families. And, this past for Veterans Day, we, a couple of days ago, we delivered 21 mortgage-free homes, because we've been in existence for 21 years now, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. And we paid off or built 21 mortgage-free Gold Star homes for these families that lost their loved one. I'm sure Rick knows plenty of Gold Star families, and they didn't come home, and their families were left behind. And if they have a young family, we're going to take care of them. The Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Once again, that's what $11 a month can do. So we're proud of the work that we're doing, but it's not over. So you asked me how many more? There was 7,072 men and women that died for our country. 7,072 since the war on terror, since September 11, 2001. Many of them we've taken care of, but many we haven't yet. How many that are injured, catastrophically injured, that have to be taken? Yeah, we took care of many, but there's many we haven't taken care of yet. They might be in a home already, but we're going to make sure that we pay off their mortgage and redo their home, so they have, when they become older, when they're, not as old as me, there's not too many people as old as me, but when they're 50 or 60 years, when they're 50 or 60 years old, they're going to have the comforts in the house that they're going to need, because their bodies will wear down, just like yours and I might wear down, Shelley, but theirs in a more dramatic and drastic way. So, we need to be there for them. And, we also take care of our first responders. As you first said, those who died in the line of duty, to leave young kids behind. And we're going to take care of every single one of these first responders. When they go to give their kids a kiss goodbye and they don't come home, we're going to make sure that we take care of the families that are left behind. So, and Rick, by the way, he's an outrageous human being in so many different ways. He's so well-spoken. He presents so beautifully. He wants to get the message out of there that even though bad things happen to him, he served his country. He's so proud of it, but you could still go on with your life, and you got to push forward and, count the blessings that you have and not the ones you don't have.
I'm speaking with Frank Siller. He's chairman and CEO of Tunnel to Towers Foundation, and also veteran Rick Yarosh, who joined the Army in 2004, and he was on patrol in Iraq. When his vehicle was hit with an IED, he ended up with burns over more than half his body, had to have his right leg amputated below the knee, and lost the use of his hands. Rick, why did you join the Army? Tell us that story.
Oh man, I go to 3 big ones, 3 big reasons. And the first and simplest one was I had no clue what I was doing. In a lot of different ways. I didn't know what I was doing with my life. I had no idea what the military really entailed, but honestly, it was the best decision I ever made. was to join the military. Number two was 9/11. And sure, I was angry, but I was also extremely proud of how our country came together and put their arms around each other and said, let's get through this, because the only way to get through really big, really difficult things is with each other. And I wanted to be a part of preserving the pride that I saw in the togetherness, the unity that we had as a nation.
How old were you when you joined?
I was 24 when I joined. Or sorry. I was 21 when I was joined. I was 24 when I was injured.
Mm. What is your first memory of? Do you remember being hit? Do you remember that all happening?
I remember everything until they stuck a needle in my arm in the hospital. And I just told my story probably 10, 11 times last week in schools. And my vehicle was hit with an IED, and it went through the bottom into the turret where I was sitting. I was in a Bradley, which is like a small tank, but also in the turret is where we have our fuel tank. And it hit the fuel tank, covering me in fuel and instantly on fire. I knew I had to climb out of the vehicle, and thankfully that day, thank God that day, I left the hatch above me open, because if I didn't leave it open, I wouldn't be doing this with you right now. I wouldn't be here. So I was able to climb to the top. Once I got to the top, I knew I had to get to the ground, but the problem was it's 10 feet from the top of the turret to the ground. And the bigger problem that I had was I was blind. I couldn't see because of the fire. The fire was covering my eyes. So when I jumped, I landed and I broke my leg, severing the artery in my leg, which ended up in the amputation below my knee of my right leg. I ended up rolling in one direction, but first I gave up hope, unfortunately, and I accepted the fact that I was going to die that moment. But I ended up rolling in one direction eventually, and I ended up rolling into a canal that was there that had enough water in it to put the fire out. And a couple of my friends found me. And eventually they carried me out of the canal, and helicopters came about 30 minutes later and took me to the hospital. And that's when I don't remember anything for probably the next, month, probably the next month. I was in an induced coma for a while, but then I ended up in the hospital for 6 months total.
Were you conscious this whole time till they took you to the hospital?
Yeah, I remember everything. I can remember having a conversation with my close friend, Sergeant Luis Montez, who lost his life. We were talking. I can't remember the exact words, but I can always remember. And this is just kind of what tells you what who a soldier is. He was extremely injured, and he obviously died from his injuries. But in the vehicle, in that helicopter, the only thing he was worried about was me and taking care of me. And he was younger than me. And he wanted to make sure that I was okay and give Rick the meds he needs. And I can remember all of that stuff. And I remember him taking me out of the helicopter, wheeling me through 2 double doors. I remember a light above my head, the light from the table I was on, and then boom, and that was it.
Do you have any regrets?
No, I don't. Again, joining the military was the best decision I've ever made. And I will even tell you today, and I didn't say this right away, but my injury was the best thing that ever happened to me. And, that's obviously not talking about the loss of my friend, because I miss him every single day. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the fact that now I am married and I have 2 little girls, and I wouldn't have any of those. I wouldn't have either my wife or my girls if I didn't get injured in Iraq. I would have never met them.
How's that?
I would have never moved back to New York. I probably would have stayed in the military, which would have been great. I would have been happy in the military for 20 more years. But that's not the path that it led me on. And I moved back to New York, and I met my wife and had my 2 little girls. And I wouldn't have met the Tunnel to Towers team, who have become more of a team, more than just a team in my life. They're a part of my family. There's very rarely a week that goes by that I don't hear from at least one person that works with Tunnel to Towers. That's amazing to me. So it's more than just a team to have, but I wouldn't have met them, and I wouldn't be who I am today. I wouldn't have been able to talk to 2 million students over the past 12 years of my life if it didn't happen to me. So that's why I can say today that what happened to me is the best thing, because it led to amazing things in my life.
And you can do amazing things, people. All you have to do is donate $11 a month to help people like Rick Yarosh, a hero, an inspiration, a true inspiration. Go to T2t.org. That's T, the number 2t.org. Come on. Everyone can afford $11 a month. If you're listening to me, you could afford $11 a month. Help this wonderful organization and pay tribute to veterans on this Veterans Day weekend. If you missed any part of this, download the iHeartRadio app. It's free. And my interviews live on the podcast Sunstein Sessions. And I'll see you guys tomorrow morning on the Jim Kerr Rock and Roll Morning Show, Q104.3.
New York's classic rock, Q1043.